Hey guys, and welcome to another top 10 list. Here I have a top 10 favorite science fiction movies. Actually top 11, because I didn't want to leave any of those movies out. Science fiction is literally one of my favorite genres. It's such a wicked cool concept. Taking a scientific concept and then exploring its potential. And there are so many wicked, fantastic things you can do in science fiction. You can do time travel, space travel, alien invasion, alternate history, and many other different things. There are so many wicked cool things you can do in science fiction. And simply, science fiction is just awesome. Science fiction is great. It's masterful. It's atmospheric. It's creative. It's clever. It's amazing. And there are, as I said, so many different things you can do with science fiction. And if it's done well, it has the potential to be some of the greatest movies ever. Some of the greatest movies ever are considered science fiction. And also, superheroes don't count as science fiction in my eyes. They're more fantasy? I don't know. I just consider them superhero movies. I love superhero movies, but they're decidedly not science fiction. Science fiction, I think it has to be something actually smart, clever, as I said. And the best thing about science fiction, as I said, they take scientific concepts, and I love science. I'm very into science, and I like discussing philosophical things and scientific things, and thinking about their potential. I love all that. So science fiction, one of the best genres that ever exist. Maybe someday I will have to do top 10 favorite science fiction video games and top 10 favorite science fiction TV shows. But let's just stick for now with top 11 best science fiction movies. At number 11, Inception. I love Christopher Nolan. He's one of my favorite directors ever, and he directed so many amazing things. My favorite movie of his is still the Dark Knight trilogy, but Inception is also one of his best. And I love this unique concept of a dream within a dream. Basically, the characters here go into dreams within dreams. The idea of going into someone's dream is just so creative and masterful. And also I love how the movie discusses things like what's real, what's a dream, and all of that. And even the visuals are fantastic too. Doctor Strange had great visuals, but they are very much inspired by Inception, and I think Inception still does them way better. So Inception, one of the best science fiction movies. And at number 11 on this list. Which some would say low, but it just shows how great others are, because trust me, there are lots of science fiction movies out in the world that couldn't make the list but are still fantastic. And coming in number 10 is... I'm likely going to get huge backlash for that, because I know for a lot of people that should be number 1. And I respect it highly, because it's an objectively work of art. And from a pure objective standpoint, this might actually belong in the top spot. But this is just my personal list, and for me it's number 10, because at the moment it's dull, and that's 2001 Space Odyssey. I love space travel. It's one of my favorite... Space is one of my favorite things to learn about, and I love how the movie explores horrors of space and philosophy. It starts as just regular monkeys, and then talks about human evolution, and as I said, it starts out as just regular monkeys, and then they discover a thing and evolve all the way to for humans to travel into space. Now that's just so wicked awesome. And the ending is just so surprising and so unexpected and so masterful. The only reason it's number 10 and not higher is because there are admittedly moments where I find it a little dull. But as I said, it's a total masterpiece, work of art, and a classic. And honestly, I wouldn't be surprised that for some people it's number 1 on this list. But from my personal enjoyment standpoint, it's number 10. At number 9, and that's a tie between two movies, The Terminator and Terminator 2 Judgment Day. It's really hard to pick, so I tie them up because both Terminator movies are amazing. First two. There are no more Terminator movies after that. Like, I guess Salvation had a cool concept of showing us the actual war, but it wasn't well executed. But there are only two great Terminator movies, and those are the first two. Like, having this war in the future between humans and machines, and then have this dangerous machine that looks like a human go back in time to kill the resistance leader. It's just such a wicked cool concept, and it's executed so wonderfully that Terminator movies are some of the best science fiction movies ever made. And no wonder they are here. At number 8, it's Aliens. First Alien movie by Ridley Scott was great, but I think the sequel Aliens is just much better. Like, the story here is fantastic, the visuals are wonderful, and the characters are great. Yeah, like, this is a perfect example of a science fiction movie that that the story is the priority here. Like, yeah, the concept is great. I love the design of xenomorphs, but the main highlight of the movie is the relationship of Ellen Ripley and their little girl Newt. The relationship is just so touching and so emotional. I love it. At number 7, Logan. Yeah, Logan is, I said, I generally don't count superhero movies as science fiction, but Logan is very much an exception. It's just like the Dark Knight trilogy is more of a dark thriller vigilante movie. This is definitely much more of a science fiction movie than a superhero movie. It's very much a modern western too. Yeah. The movie discusses various themes such as xenophobia, oppression, cloning. Yeah. And it's just a great movie. And it can easily be enjoyed by people who are not familiar with the X-Men franchise. In fact, I know someone who only got into X-Men thanks to Logan. Because Logan is amazing, and the action is great too actually, and the characters are amazing, and the ending is emotional. Logan is a fantastic movie, and even though it's part of the X-Men franchise, I love X-Men franchise by the way, don't take me wrong, but as I said, it's much more of a science fiction movie than a superhero movie, and I love it. At number 6, and it's a movie from Poland here, and it's called Sex Mission. I love that movie, and it wouldn't be made in a politically correct world today. It's about two men who undergo an experiment and wake up 50 years later. They were supposed to wake up 3 years later, but they accidentally wake up 50 years later to find that planet Earth is now dominated only by women who reproduce through machines somehow, and all men went extinct. This is such a cool concept, and as I said, it will definitely not be made in a politically correct world today. But I'm glad it exists and was made back then. It was made like in the 80s, and the women try to turn those two men into women, but the men escape, and it's also a lot of fun too, and it's so funny too. And the ending is very surprising, but I will not spoil it here, even though most of you won't be able to watch it because that movie is available only in Poland. But it's a wicked awesome movie that sadly would never be made in a modern Hollywood today. Number 5, and it's a Star Wars movie, and that's Revenge of the Sith. Yeah, like many people give hatred to the Star Wars prequels, but I love the prequels, especially the third one, Revenge of the Sith. Yeah, like the sequels, those are actually bad Star Wars movies that are admittedly very insulting to the franchise, but the prequels are awesome, especially Revenge of the Sith. And Revenge of the Sith, like the first two prequels, Phantom Menace and Attack of the Clones, while I still love them, I acknowledge they have lots of flaws, but Revenge of the Sith is just perfect. Like, it's also emotional, the story is fantastic, it's also finally showed us Anakin's turn to the dark side, and it's by far the darkest Star Wars movie ever, and especially if you watch the two prequels, like this movie is just a perfect conclusion all the more perfect if you watch the Clone Wars show. I'm a fan of the Clone Wars, by the way, and basically this movie can serve as an alternative finale. Yeah, we got an actual finale in 2020, which was awesome, by the way, but Revenge of the Sith can sometimes be watched together with the finale as a companion, because it's so amazing. It's certainly one of the best Star Wars movies and one of the best sci-fi movies in general. Number 4, Back to the Future trilogy. Yeah, this is a comedy as much as this science fiction, but I honestly think it's more of a science fiction still. And this is the movie that explores time travel concept, one of the most things I'm very fascinated about. By the way, I really wish scientists invent time travel. It probably won't happen in my lifetime, sadly, if ever at all, but I really wish it happened. Like, going back in time is something I would just love to do. Going back to the past and explore my past, yeah. And this movie also explores the consequences of time travel, like Marty McFly goes back in time and makes it so his parents never meet, and the rest of the first movie is trying to get them to fall in love. Then, the second movie is more action-packed, but it's still amazing. And what I love about the second movie is how they go in the future, 2015, which is very different than the actual 2015. But it's wicked interesting to see how people believed society would develop back then. And funny thing, they have flying cars, no cell phones. Yeah. And the third movie takes place in the Wild West, because they go back in time to the Wild West. And I like how the third movie goes back to being less action-packed than the second movie. It's pretty nice. But Back to the Future trilogy, fantastic trilogy. Number 3, and that's another Christopher Nolan movie, and outside of the Dark Knight trilogy, his best, and that's Interstellar. Yeah, I just love Interstellar. I love the story, the characters, and also the space travel here. The music is fantastic. Like, the visuals are wicked awesome. And the relationship of the main character and his daughter is just so touching and so emotional. Like, I know 2000 Space Odyssey is kind of what largely inspired the movie, but I actually think this is much better, because in addition to having everything that 2001 Space Odyssey has, space travel, like, it also has an incredible, wicked, amazing story. And I just love Interstellar. The ending of Interstellar is pretty sad, but also pretty bittersweet, actually. And by the way, Interstellar might have to get a You Should Be Watching treatment someday. But not anytime soon, because I already have lots of movies and shows planned, so not in a couple of years. Because said, this You Should Be Watching is only done every few months, and I already have lots of things planned for it. So, yeah. But Interstellar is still an amazing movie and one of Christopher Nolan's best. And one of the best sci-fi movies ever. Coming in number 2. And that's an underrated classic hidden gem. And that's 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea. Yeah, Jules Verne is basically a father in science fiction. He invented it. And 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea is likely his best book. And this movie truly done that book justice. Like, yeah, most of the movie takes place under the ocean, which is amazing. I love oceans. And I love ocean creatures and all. I love all that. And it still holds up so well today, because it's obvious it was actually filmed underwater. And it's just incredible. Like, all the underwater sequences are fantastic. The story is great. I love the characters and Professor Aronnax, his Conseil, Ned Land. I love all the characters. And I love Captain Nemo. Captain Nemo is just so mysterious. It's hard to tell. Is he a good person, a bad person? But he's certainly very mysterious. And I love that. And this movie totally deserves a You Should Be Watching treatment, and we'll definitely get it someday. It's underrated, overlooked, amazing, classic, masterpiece. It totally needs the You Should Be Watching treatment. And the fight of the giant squid is still one of the best scenes in movie history. I just love 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea. I love it so much. It's a true masterpiece and deserves to be treated among the best sci-fi classic. Sad it's so overlooked. And my number one favorite science fiction is Star Wars original trilogy. The best is Empire Strikes Back, but all three movies are amazing. Like, I just love Star Wars. I hate the sequels, as you already know, but I love Star Wars, real Star Wars. And what's so cool about Star Wars is that it basically many different genres. You have elements of fantasy, the Force, and you also have some samurai, like the lightsaber battles. And there are elements of space western, like on Tatooine, but the big genre is space opera. And Star Wars is just amazing. The story is great, the characters are awesome, and yeah. Star Wars is probably my second favorite trilogy ever, after The Lord of the Rings. And Darth Vader is still my favorite villain of all time. Okay guys, so here you have my 11 favorite science fiction movies. What are your favorite science fiction movies? Do you like some of the ones on my list? Comment below, let me know. Press the like button, please subscribe to this channel, and I will talk to you soon in another video. Talk to you soon, bye!